it, but I feel really called to go into the direction of, because I feel you bring this piece that I love hearing from you about, which is the parent-child dynamic. I think it's just super important with everything that you're talking about. And I want to go into, because in your book, hearing particularly the section where you talk into your relationship with your father and that experience, I was so moved by that, and really resonated with it. And I feel like it can really help people. But I
Sure.
want to know, how do our unresolved relationships with our parents impact our lives? Can we forgive and forget? Or is there more work that really needs to be done, right? And I know you've kind of already answered this, but I'd love you to unpack that.
Well, I think you want me to kind of focus on the situation with my father. And here's my experience, and those that have worked on the cycle and been clients and gone through my university courses, the outcome has been the same. And what I realize now, see, when you do this work, we all have pieces of our parents where we're like, damn, I wish they would have shown up for me here. I love them for this, but this part, I have this hole. Okay, so let's just call it a hole. And for me, like, I loved Christmas. I'm going to start crying, talking about I don't know, I may just start bawling. I don't know why, I'm just feeling really emotional for some reason. But Christmas was the one day of the year my dad would come down in his pajamas, unshaved, and he'd play with us. It was like, that's the father I want. Where's he been? But it was the only time we'd get him. Now, as he got older, that changed. I give my dad tremendous credit. Well, the first thing you have to realize is my grandfather was basically me. He taught the whole Dale Carnegie, win friends and influence people, one of the first people to do it kind of in the Western US, yet he's beating my father. And so my father goes, psychology, personal development, screw that. My dad became an engineer. Here's what was fascinating, that by discovering the cycle and doing the work, when I knew my dad was dying, because what you're talking about is the end of the book when my father was dying, and he had been diagnosed with cancer. And my dad, I guess, was watching some of my videos. And I talked how cancer, the most effective cancer treatment out there is emotional work. Cancer is caused by deep self-hatred, deep resentment, deep held secrets, usually the inability to say no. And so because the cells literally turn against and eat yourself from the inside out. And I've had tremendous success. People with cancer, as soon as we start dealing with the emotion, all their doctors like, what are you doing? We don't need chemo. And that's universal. Anyway, he saw that and he goes, we're having a phone conversation. He goes, how's work? And I would, because I knew all my life, whenever I went to succeed, my dad would cut my legs out from under me, like sadistically, not kindly. He'd do things for the other kids. Like there was a hockey opportunity and he's like, well, I think you should just take a year off and go to school. Whereas he didn't do that for the other kids. As he said before he died, he said, of all the kids, you got the least. And so that was my relationship with my father. And so anyway, he says, how's work? And so I know I had learned, remember, I have to keep secrets or I'll lose attachment with my dad. And so I wouldn't say things. And then finally he just yelled at me, what do you think? You think I wanted to give myself cancer? And I was like, whoa, Dad, that's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying at all. And one of the things I realized, it took about 6 months for him to die. And I went and visited him a lot and spent time with him. And I had worked through the cycle, so I was in total peace. And this is the beautiful thing. I'm so glad I did this. Before I went, when we found out, I wrote down, I asked myself a question, who do I want to be? Because what if my dad opens up? What if he owns his stuff? Or what if he doesn't? What if he asks me, how am I going to handle this? Am I going to beat him over the head with his imperfections? What am I going to do? And I was like, I better figure this out now, so in the moment I know what to do. So I asked myself, 6 months after he's dead, looking back on this time while he's dying, who do I want to be during that period? And so I wrote that out. And I remember having a conversation with him and us talking about stuff, and it hit me. I went, oh my God, I saw it for the first time. I was like, the reason my dad cut my legs out from underneath me is my dad's gifted just like me. He could do what I could do, but because of his father, he shut it down. And so the reason my dad always cut my legs out from under me is I'm his unrealized potential. And so he couldn't see me do it, because if I did it, it would show him how he robbed himself of it. Remember denial, remember the cycle, the shame and denial course. He couldn't go there. And I just was like, I remember, I'll never forget the moment seeing and just like, oh my God, there it is. I got my gift. Like my mom, here's what I learned. Like we all knew my mom had a gift like I do, but my mom could see evil. My dad could see greatness. And I got both. I got like a double whammy. And we all thought my dad was detached and all that. And I was like, oh my God, no, he's the most gifted. He's just never lived in it. But the only way I could see behind my own father's false personas and imperfections was by healing my own. And so you ask, how do you reconcile it with your parents? Because remember, the second denial piece, if I go pursue myself, I'm going to lose attachment. That's not what happens. Because I did the work, I no longer needed my dad to be different. Yeah. Remember in the book, I talk about how in my 20s, when I first quit drinking, I wrote him this long note of, Dad, you've never told me anything about your life. I don't know what your likes are. I don't know who you are. I just want, and I ended with, it was 3 pages of all these desires I have to connect with him. And I said, I just want to be your friend. Mm-hmm. And when I came home, I was playing hockey in Canada. I came home, I was staying at the house for a couple of weeks, and he came up from the basement. He ran his company from the basement. And he goes, Kenny, I got your letter, and you just need to get over that. Like, wham. Again, cutting my legs out from under me. Well, in that phone call about the cancer, with the realization that my father was me, and the realization that my father adored the living hell out of me, and the reason he cut my legs out from under me wasn't because he didn't care about me. It's because he was in so much pain himself, and he couldn't see himself. So he had to remember how the shame portion works. We victimize ourselves. I became his self-victimization. See, I could see it now. But in that moment, I said, Dad, no more. I love you, but I won't carry your pain anymore. I've done it all my life, and it's not my job. And I did it like this. I wasn't yelling and screaming. I very lovingly said, Dad, I adore you, and I know you adore me, but I'm not going to carry it for you anymore. It's yours, and you get to do with it what you want, and I will love you no matter what you do. And before, when he first brought up the question about the video, I reacted out of anger, and he goes, see, your anger tells me. And I was like, you're right, Dad. I'm scared to death. I said, because for the first time in my life, I know how great I am, and I don't know what to do with that. I see how powerful I am, and it scares the living hell out of me. For once, I'm not sabotaging myself. I'm not hurting myself. Wow, I didn't expect this. And so you're right, Dad, I'm scared to death, because now I know what greatness looks like. Now I know what we're all capable of. And man, you think you've been through fear in your life? Trust me. When you overcome the cycle and you get to this and you see, oh my God, what I can do, it scares the living shit out of you. Like nothing. It's the Grand Canyon experience I talk about with my daughters in the book. I can't put it into words. You have to live it. And if anyone decides to invest in what I do, they'll send me a text 5, 10, 20 years from now and go, oh my God, I get it. You're right. No fear in life is anything like this. And at any rate, as I lovingly gave him his pain back, I was ending the conversation and I said, you know, Dad, I love you. You're always teaching me something about me, because I knew the deeper meaning. I knew that the confrontation was, I have to choose my greatness in this moment. I have to lovingly give my father back what he gave to me and claim my authenticity. And so it was I didn't have to, see, that's the thing, is you no longer have to express it or tell them or fix them or get them to see you, because now I see me. I see the evil in me. Like my mother could see evil. Well, I have evil in me. I can see it just like her, but I'm also evil. Look at my life history. I mean, my God, my second wife, it wasn't in the book, only I didn't leave it out because I'm afraid of it, but it was salacious. It didn't advance the story. But my second wife, we had an open relationship. She was an escort. Like, I mean, I've done horrifically so-called, you know, what people would say evil things. So I'm that, but I could accept both. And so I no longer need my dad to see me because I see me. And so in that moment, I said, Dad, I love you. And you're always teaching me something about me. And he goes, you know, Kenny, I don't want to teach you anything. I just want to be your friend. 20, 30 years later, I'd asked to be his friend, but do you see, my request as a 20-year-old was manipulative. Dad, you need to be different. You need to be the father I deserve. Do you hear how abusive that is? Just like our parents are to us. You need to be this type of child. You're bad, you're wrong unless you do this. And so then we do it right back to them. You need to be this type of parent. Well, when you go do the recovery work, all of a sudden you don't need that. And that's why you feel, even if they never shift, you have come close. You feel a level of connection with them you've never had before. It heals it. Even if they still treat you like dirt, it goes away. And that's the reconciliation process. And that's another Grand Canyon experience that it's hard for me to explain. I hope it resonates with people. But if you choose to do the work, again, you'll go, oh my God, I see it now. They're perfectly fine. But it's so much bigger than that. It's about, I'm perfectly fine. And I don't need them to be different. And so, like, I remember my dad was very manipulative. It was how he would hurt me. And when he first got cancer, remember, I sat down and wrote, I need to figure out how I'm going to handle this. And I was hugging him. I was about to head to the airport, get back on a plane. And I was hugging him, and he said, you know, and my dad didn't get very vulnerable, but he said, Kenny, is there anything you can think of that would help me? And I went, oh goodness, here it is. And I went, well, you know, there's some suggestions I, you know, talked about. I sent him some Louise Hay, some information about how cancer is, you know, an emotional condition. He goes, oh, that positive thinking stuff. See, there it was. It was a setup, but I knew it. And so I didn't, because in the old days, he'd ask me that, I'd tell him, and then he'd go, oh, that's stupid. He'd just cut my legs out. I didn't bite on it. And I remember hugging him, and he tried to do it. And when he said that, I just smiled at him. I kissed him on the cheek, and I said, I love you, Dad. See, I could let him. I no longer hurt me. And another instance, we were sitting on the back porch, and we're having an ice cream. And we were talking about, my younger brother and I both married narcissistic sociopaths and suffered horrific abuse in our marriage. And somehow the topic got onto that. He's like, your mom and I used to talk about, how did you guys end up with these type of women? I just don't get it. And I went, oh my God, here it is. This is the whole deathbed confession. Like, we're really going to go there. But remember, I wrote down, how do I want to handle myself? And I decided I don't need to beat my father over the head with truth. If he wants to go there, if it works for him, I'll love him. but I'm not going to dump my unhealed pain and manipulate him back. And so when he went there, I went, Dad, are you asking me my opinion and why that happened? And his eyes got big and wide, and it was dead quiet, and he goes, well, I just don't know. And I went, yeah, I just don't know either, Dad. Again, see, that's what comes of it is I allowed him. And then I'll tell one more story. I don't want to ramble too much, but
not at all.
I was at the hospital. It was getting bad, and I went one morning, and I walked in, and I saw and felt, I saw death. And I called everyone. I said, it's time. You got to get over here. And I had to fly out that night. And I had made the decision. I knew that denial is what killed my father, not cancer. That's denial. Cancer is denial. It's denial of our pain. It's a denial of truth. And that may hurt people's feelings, but I'd encourage you to do the work. And I'm okay if you attack me, that's fine, because I get it. But I'll just say it this way. My life experience, yes, my life experience is cancer is denial. And I wasn't going to confront my dad's denial. If he wanted to go there, I'd help him, but he didn't want to. And so I didn't change my flight. I knew he was dying that night or the next morning. I didn't change it because I was not going to let my father suck me in like he used to do to take care of him and be a part of his denial. I wasn't going to let that happen anymore. And so I remember as I'm leaving, and everyone was like, how the hell can you leave when your father's dying? Well, you have to go through the process for that to make sense. And anyway, as I'm standing, it was time for me to go, and he's in his hospital bed. Oh, and I just looked at him, and I said, Dad, I have to go. I have to catch my flight. And he was watching a football game or something. And he turns, and he's not even present. He wasn't even present in his own life. And completely detached that he was dying. And he looked at me just blank and kind of in this smile that he'd have, he goes, have a good flight. And I just looked at him kind of like now, and I just said, you too, Dad. And that was the last time I saw him. But see, I could do that. I could allow him to love himself the way that he was capable of. I didn't have to judge him or change him. I could accept him, but I could also accept myself and not beat myself up. We both loved each other perfectly in that moment. It could have been no better way. And so you ask me how to reconcile it. At least in my experience, if you become an expert in the worst day cycle, I've never seen any other process out there that teaches you how to heal the parent-child wound like mine does. That I'm certain of. I hear people talk about the dynamics, but not the process, and mine does that. And so that's what I did. And so it was my tears are just joy, because it's like, man, I love the way I love the way we both handled ourselves in that moment. And no one's asked me about it in years. So, and I love to cry anyway. So anyway, I'll stop there.